What's up, amigos? I hope everyone is doing well today. In today's video, we have something a bit different. Today, we have a leveling build guide. Season 1 is right around the corner, and I want to make sure that we're all prepared, so we have a simple 1 to 50 leveling guide for Poison Twisting Blades. This will be the fastest way to level for Rogue come Season 1, unless they drastically nerf how Poison works, but the odds are we don't have to worry too much about that for early game. But if they do decide to nerf anything, it would probably be for late game scaling. So why Poison? We choose to level with Poison because we're aiming to dot and move, and we want something to melt bosses in seconds. So Poison Blades is probably the strongest early game build in the entire game because it destroys trash mobs and has pure single target damage capabilities. And with this build, we can transition with it into mid and late game. So we can streamline our leveling process and make it as fast and efficient as possible. So I have laid out everything in D4 builds, including when to grab what, because of this new leveling path system that D4 builds has. So I think it's amazing for videos like this, by the way, so kudos to the D4 builds team. Now in the build, we've also even included the 5 renown levels that most of us will have access to. Now, I've suggested in a previous video of mine, which I did about a week and a half ago in my what to do before season 1 video. And those are collecting your altars of Lilith and discovering all your areas in each zone, because those collections are account bound, meaning that you only have to do them once, and the renown that you've acquired from those 2 collections, they actually transfer over into seasons, meaning if you've gotten them, you'll have 2 full renown blocks to claim in each zone when you create your seasonal character, granting you 5 skill points and max potion charges at level 1. So because we have those 5 starting skill points, we can actually grab our full startup rotation of fundamental puncture and twisting blades. I know that this will confuse people who have the renowned skill points. So if you have your renowned skill points, ignore the levels on the side and just know that technically at level 2, you are placing your first point into sturdy. Now I am, for the sake of this video, going to go over this like we don't have those extra 5 points from the beginning, to avoid thus confusion. So starting off, we take puncture, level 3 enhance, and then at level 4 we take twisting blades, at level 5 we take fundamental, and then at level 6 we take our enhanced twisting blades. This is our full core setup here. We don't bother running improved, and we don't bother running advanced leveling up. They just aren't worthwhile anymore. Advanced pre-nerf was amazing, but after the nerf of advanced twisting blades, I just don't think it's worth it leveling up. So after we take enhanced at level 6, then at level 7 we take our first point into sturdy. Now we're going to start building up our early damage reduction because I like stacking my defensives early on. That way I can worry more about damage and make up for damage as we progress. Once we take this first point into sturdy, we will then go over and have enough to put into dash and into shadow step. We take these mainly for mobility, but shadow step is also our source of unstoppable. So if we get stunned, CC'd, whatever, we can break them and go on about our day. After we take shadow step and dash, we go back and we max out our sturdy. We take a second point into twisting blades. This will then unlock our tree down here, so we can take a point into dark shroud. This is just another form of defensive layering. It's really great early on, especially since we have it on our bar. After this, we want to max out our twisting blades at 14, 15, and 16. Level 17, we're coming over here to our first point in weapon mastery. Now for weapon mastery, it is worth noting that early on, we are not going to have an insane amount of crit chance. We're not going to be able to obtain a good amount of crit chance to make crossbows viable. So I definitely recommend using bows. It will increase our damage to vulnerable targets. And use swords. It'll just give you that flat increased damage multiplier. Moving on, at level 18, we finally unlock our imbuements. We can take our first point into imbuement, and then 19 enhanced imbuement to increase the poison duration. 20 and 21, we want to make sure that we stack our weapon mastery because again, these are multipliers, they're huge for our damage. Level 22 and 23, we're taking enhanced dark shroud into countering dark shroud. Now we actually have a flat 8% chance, or crit chance rather. So we can start building up our crit chance to take things like blended imbuement, which we take at level 24 to increase the amount of poison that we can stack on bosses based on our crit strikes. At level 25, we take our first point into exploit. We don't opt to max this out until later on, and by later on I mean transitioning into a late game build. Instead, because we're leveling, we opt to take the vulnerable damage. So we go ahead and slam 3 points into Malice at 26, 27, and 28. 29 and 30, because we're starting to build up that crit chance, especially having countering, and just crit chance that you may have found on your rings. We then take 2 points into Siphoning Strikes. That way we can actually have some sort of life leech. Level 30 is when you start seeing enemies taking more damage. At least from my experience, this is when you start seeing them take a little bit more damage. You'll still crush them no matter what, but we do opt to 31, 32, and 33, just slam our next 3 points into Deadly Venom to further increase our poison damage. 34, we take our point into Adrenaline Rush. This is a prereq for Haste, which is coming up. So just to recap here, by level 20, you have your full setup and defensive layering, huge damage potential. And then from there, we're just trying to stack our passives to further our damage potential because we already have our defensive layering. Now, once we hit this point into Adrenaline Rush, we then have enough to hit our first Keystone passive, Close Quarters Combat. This will be at level 35. Now, Close Quarters Combat is actually amazing. Not only will it give us that 30% damage multiplying boost, but it also grants us attack speed. Now, for those who don't know, attack speed is really nice with Twisting Blades. Attack speed actually affects the rate at which our blades twirl when they come back to us when we're using Blade Dancer. So again, just another huge damage spike. From here, now we are going to focus on our poison. But first, we're going to go ahead and take 2 points in the Debilitating Toxins, which by now, if you should have Blade Dancer. And we have our dash. We just have everything that we need to make sure that we are just poisoning everything and just moving. So anything that we poison with Debilitating Toxins deals less damage. 38, 39, 40, and 41. This is solely so we can stack our Poison Imbuement. Poison Imbuement is our main source of damage here. And once you hit level 40 to 50 range, this is when you start seeing that enemies are taking longer to kill. We are not just one-shotting anything anymore, especially bosses, so the extra % damage is going to be nice. And because things are taking longer to kill, after we stack up our Poison Imbuement, we are then opting to take 3 points into Innervation because we go through more energy. Things are taking longer to kill, we're spamming more Twisting Blades, we want this lucky hit chance to gain 8 energy. After we max Innervation, we take a point into Haste. This will give us the movement speed when we're above 50% max energy and attack speed when we're below. So it's a win-win. Between 46 to 48, we come up to stack our Precision Imbuement, which is just extra crit strike chance with our poison imbued skills. Obviously, what this does is, pretty self-explanatory, but you have to remember that we take Blended, which we deal 75% of our crit strike in poison damage. Now, 49, we take another point in the haste, and at 50, we take another point in the haste. Now, by now, you should have the Umbrous Aspect and maybe even a couple backups to imprint later. If you have the Umbrous Aspect, what the Umbrous Aspect does is you have a lucky hit chance on crit to grant yourself a stack of Dark Shroud. So, with marksman skills. Now, our Puncture is considered a marksman skill. So if you have the Umbrous Aspect, by level 50, you should be respecking and taking the point out of countering and the point out of enhance and either taking Poison Trap or taking Death Trap. Now you want to do this because they'll help you tremendously through your 50 to 60 grind, and especially when you're transitioning into World Tier 3 where everything's just going to one-shot you pretty much if you aren't careful. So you want that kind of CC, and you want just the extra survivability that CC gives you. Now when you take Death Trap or Poison Trap, you also want to make sure that you're taking Trap Mastery along with it. This will give you the crit chance against vulnerable and crowd controlled enemies for 4 seconds. Now, speaking about aspects, in the note section here, these are the early aspects to look for. So, Blade Dancer, this is your most important one. You can find this in Jalal's Vigil dungeon, it's in Skazglen, it's in the northern part of the Shrouded Moors. Again, your most important aspect. So I do want to go out of, and show everybody exactly where it is. So this is Map Genie. I use this a lot. This is a great resource to use, especially if you're just learning the map, learning where everything is. If you need to hunt your Altars of Lilith, Map Genie is the way to go. So here, once you load into Map Genie, you'll be bombarded with a bunch of stuff. You can just hit hide all. Over here in the search bar, you can just type in Blade Dancer or any aspect that you're looking for. We're going to click Blade Dancer, and here's Jalal's Vigil Dungeon. It is located in Skosglen, the Shrouded Moors, up at the top right corner here. So the second important and probably, again, the most important aspect with Blade Dancer is aspect of the Might. This is a constant damage reduction. It is so good. You are constantly spamming your puncture because we are running combo points. You are constantly spamming your puncture. So this is just a constant damage reduction buff. This is located in the Dry Steppes in Tuzma Rift. It is connected to the Kargai Crags. Again, we can come over to Map Genie. We're going to go into the search bar. We're going to type in Might. It is located right here. Dark Ravine, right in Tuzma Rift. Basic skills grant damage reduction for 4 seconds. Another amazing defensive layer and aspect is Disobedience, of course. This is going to, especially with poison, because of the uptime that you get from Disobedience, it procs with your poison ticks. So this one's in Halls of the Damned in Kyrgyzstan. It's in the northeastern corner of Scouring Sands. I would say that this is semi-important. I, for one, am going to be rushing these 3 aspects when I'm leveling. Come back to Map Genie here. We'll go look up Disobedience. And there it is. Scouring Sands, eastern part of Scouring Sands. We already talked about the Umbrus aspect. This isn't available through dungeons, so you won't be able to have it through your codex. It is just, again, it's a random drop. Once you get this, remove Dark Shroud off your action bar. This is where you're removing Countering and Enhance, and you're slotting in Death Trap. You can even slot in Shadow Clone, preferably Death Trap, Poison Trap. And then another nice little quality of life, which isn't important at all, but it's the Vengeful aspect. This is located in the Inferno dungeon in Kyrgyzstan. It's in the northeast corner of Amber Sands. Anytime we inflict an enemy with vulnerable, we gain crit chance. So early on, this could be really good. It's another one that I will be opting to go for. You do not have to if you don't want to. It's an offensive aspect, so early on, we'll be really looking to fill out the offensive aspects through our rings, through our 2 weapons. So this is just a really nice quality of life thing to have. It'll give you that nice little damage spike. And I'll show everyone where this one is as well. Vengeful aspect, making an enemy vulnerable has a 30% chance to grant 3% increased crit strike for 3 seconds up to 9%. So here it is. The Amber Sands, northeast corner, the Inferno dungeon. So since we talked about the aspects, it is really just worth noting that you want Blade Dancers on your 2-hand crossbow to maximize and get that 100% increase, and then Disobedience on your amulet just to have that extra defensive. And then of course through leveling, you want rubies in your armor, you want skulls in your jewelry. This is for armor, the rubies is for max life, and in your weapons you want crit strike damage to vulnerable enemies. You can opt to put amethyst in early on. I don't think it's going to make that huge of a difference because we're going to be using small gems, of course. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we are using combo points over Inner Sight and over Preparation. I'm just a huge combo points fan. It's just great damage, especially with how the playstyle really works. You can ramp up really well. All right, and then to finish up the video, I just want to throw out here that I do have the stats involved also. So helmet, you're looking for imbuement, armor, max life, cooldown reduction. Chest armor and pants, you're sharing the same exact thing. You're just looking for damage reduction rolls. So flat, close, enemies that are poison, and total armor. For gloves, you're just looking for twisting blades, attack speed, crit chance, dexterity. On your helmet, you can also, instead of cooldown reduction, I know some people don't really like stacking cooldown because you don't really need it as much on a poison blade. You can just Dex, all stats. Same thing with glove, all stats. Boots, you're looking for Dex / all stats, movement speed, damage reduction while injured, and you have a 4th open affix, whatever you prefer. For boots, you are looking for max evade charges. It's just really nice. Amulet, you're looking for weapon mastery, imbuement skills, cooldown reduction. Maybe instead of the cooldown reduction, you roll damage reduction to close or global, and then percent dexterity is also really huge for amulets. For rings, you're looking for crit chance, crit damage, vulnerable, max life. Range weapon, you're looking for vulnerable, dexterity, close, crit strike damage, and the same exact thing for your melee weapons. Now, you don't have to roll all of these stats for an item to be good. These are just your main stats that you'll be looking for, but these are also min-max stats as well, because as I said in the beginning of the video, you can transition this build into mid and end game. And if you are curious what I run for Rogue endgame, I do have plenty of endgame guides on the channel, whether it's for Twist and Blade, Pen Shot, Flurry. So yeah, if you watched this far, thanks. I appreciate every one of you. I hope you all have a great day, and until next time, amigos, take care.